We are now at the point of the season where you may have already drafted your team or you're going into your draft just a couple of days before the season starts. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down 7 players that I think you should be drafting or that you should have drafted in fantasy hockey. It's going to be a good video, guys, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Jumping right into the video, we have Cole Perfetti of the Winnipeg Jets that was currently, or is currently, at ADP 169, basically going at the end of drafts or fully undrafted right now. This may be a guy that will be a hot topic for the week 1 pickups, but Cole Perfetti, with the triple eligibility, center, left wing, right wing, is confirmed on the top power play for the Winnipeg Jets, just as we suspected. Now, this Jets power play without Ehlers, maybe it regresses a little bit, but I personally think Perfetti is a more skilled on-ice player than Nikolai Ehlers. And with Winnipeg Jets, they had 11.06 goals for per 60 on the power play last season, the #1 power play in the entire NHL. And now we're adding a guy who hit a career high last season in 50 points, 15 points in the power play, while just playing 15 minutes per night in 24-25. You have to think now with the top 6 duties, on top of playing on the top power play unit, he's going to set career highs across the board, including 17 plus minutes and 60 plus points this season. With the shot volume for Perfetti is a little bit worrisome for me. I think under 200 is a little bit worrisome, but you're still getting a guy with this much point upside and still projected for 180 plus shots at ADP 169. He is going way too late in drafts for the upside this season for Cole Perfetti. If he's available on your waivers, maybe in your 10, 12, 14 team leagues, definitely a guy you want to be looking at. But if you're drafting the next couple of nights, add him to your queue, keep an eye on him, and draft him in the last couple of rounds as a massive lottery ticket pick that can pay off huge value this season. Vincent Trocheck, every single season, just continues to be this absolute machine in fantasy. One of the most consistent and best contributing forwards to the peripheral category of any player in the entire league. Now, there was a lot of concern that Trocheck wouldn't be on the top power play this year. And a lot of people thought that it would be Alexis Lafreniere, but what we've seen so far in training camp is Trocheck is still playing in the top 6. He's still on the top power play unit. And now with the potential injury to JT Miller, it's unknown at this time how long this injury will last for JT Miller. Last I've seen, it's day to day. But with him out, it still means Trocheck will play huge minutes. But even with JT Miller there, they're going to move Zibanejad over to the wing. Trocheck's going to continue to skate in the top 6 as the team's second or first line center. Depends on what you really categorize those top 2 lines, because Panarin's technically not on the top line, but still really good. Now with Trocheck, he's missed just 1 game since 2021-22, adding to his stability. I know a lot of people are hesitant on drafting injury-prone players, and you got to be really careful with some of the players you draft, because if they do get injured, it's going to really hurt your team. But with Vincent Trocheck, you don't get this at all, because he has missed very few games over the last couple of years. Now, I went back and looked, ranks since 22-23. Goals, points, shots, hits, face-off wins. The 5 big categories we see when forwards in fantasy. Assists are not there, but this is all the other peripheral categories on top of goals. Vincent Trocheck, 73 goals, 200 points, 670 shots, 570 hits, and 2,512 face-off wins. He ranks top 100 in all of them, top 50 in 3 of them. He is one of the best fantasy assets in terms of picking up your shots, your hits, your blocks, your face-off wins each and every week. There's a lot to love from Trocheck, a massive discount this year at ADP 130, a guy that continues to finish in the top 50 every single year. It's just that sole center position that really scares people off, but you can fade centers early in your draft and just focus on these big name centers later, like Trocheck, like Bennett, like Kadri that we're seeing later, and Trocheck's a perfect guy to outperform his ADP this season. We're projecting him to play a full 82, 25 goals, 44 assists, 18 points on the power play, 219 shots, 194 hits, and 69 blocks. A lot to love from Vincent Trocheck this season. Hopefully you were able to draft him. If not, and you're drafting soon, this is definitely someone you want to have on your radar. Moving on, we have Marco Rossi of the Minnesota Wild, currently going at the very end of drafts. He's very low rostered on Yahoo right now, and this is definitely a guy you want to add to your team. Now, we were a little concerned going into preseason. We didn't know if he was going to sign, but he did sign a deal late into the offseason, which is very good news because we get to see what the line rushes will be for the Minnesota Wild. And the other good news is that Kirill Kaprizov has been locked into a long-term deal, the richest in NHL history. So very good news for Rossi to know that Kirill Kaprizov signed. He will be there long term, and hopefully this team can piece together and figure out their chemistry and the overall skill for them to push them into a deep playoff run. Now, the early looks and what we've seen so far through all of preseason with Marco Rossi is he is going to be skating on the top line in between Matt Boldy and Kirill Kaprizov, as well as the top power play unit. He had a massive uptick in production across the board last season, 24 goals, 60 points, a plus 20-point increase year over year. And he's turning 24 this year, which is typically the prime for most players in the NHL. I think we're going to see a big bump in minutes this year, skating on the top line, skating on the full season top power play unit, and we can easily see 19 plus minutes per night. Again, we say this all the time. Chris has said it. I've said it. You may have said it. If Kirill Kaprizov can finally be healthy for a full 82, Marco Rossi could significantly outperform all projections across the board if they skate at 5-on-5 for most of the season. Now, the other big thing, and I mentioned this with some of the other players, is that Rossi really hasn't missed much time in his career. He hasn't missed a single game in the last 2 years, further speaking to his stability. Again, going really late in drafts right now. Our projections for him this season: 82 games played, 29 goals, 38 assists, 15 of those points on the power play, 168 shots, 50 hits, and 41 blocks. Not the best peripheral getting forward, but again, at ADP 182, you're not really risking any draft capital for drafting a guy like Marco Rossi with the massive upside that he does have this season. Take a look at your waiver wire. Take a look at your draft to make sure he's in your queue, and this is definitely a guy you want to be rostering this season. The last forward for this list is a guy I've talked about for, I want to say this is year 4 of talking about how much I love Sam Bennett. But now with the recent news that, well, we know this already, Matt Tkachuk out 3 to 5 months, at least until December. I would say he's probably going to come back just right before that Olympic break. And Alexander Barkov, unfortunately, is going to be out for the entire season. And this is a massive hit to the Panthers across the board. But the way I've been looking at it is I think some of their big dogs will get hurt a little bit more, like Sam Reinhart, that relies on his power play production, plays with them in the top 6. But with Sam Bennett here, now we're going to see him move up a line and play in the middle between Verhaeghe and Sam Reinhart. We haven't seen any news on this team's top power play, to the point where I actually had to tweet the beat writer today and say, can you please give me the power play lines? But I'm recording this on October 2nd, and what it looks like is they're skating their full lineup tonight. And that means we may see what the power play one will look like. So this could further bump Bennett if we do see him on that top unit. Now with Bennett, throughout his career, the biggest issue, health. And a lot of players in the league, health. But still, with Sam Bennett, it's been a health-related problem. He just can't play the full 82. But a good thing we saw last year is he did see his highest total games played at 76, the highest we've seen since 2017. That's almost 8 years, so about 7 years of hockey where Sam Bennett has failed to make 76 games in a season. But the really good thing is that he was able to reach that mark last season. Now, Bennett last year was one of 4 players with at minimum 140 hits and at minimum 220 shots, speaking to just how good of a floor he has. But now that he's skating top line, the power play one is in question, but the top line means we should see 2+ minutes, I would say, added to its average time on ice, with Barkov, who we know plays like 22 minutes per night. This will be dispersed throughout the centermen. Lundell, Bennett, both can be major benefactors, but I think Bennett is the biggest benefactor here. So in 2024, we know how good Bennett is at just shooting the puck and contributing to the peripherals. A 10.9 shot per 60, ranked number 7 in the NHL, and a 19.09 shot attempts per 60 rate, ranked number 27. So our projections this season for Bennett: 74 games played, 27 goals, 31 assists, 15 points on the power play, almost 270 shots, 170 hits, and 43 blocks. Just like Vincent Trocheck, contributes to all of the categories. If you can snag Sam Bennett and Vincent Trocheck as your 2 centermen this year, you are in a very, very strong spot. So a lot of love from me for Sam Bennett this season. I think he could be one of the biggest breakout players in the entire NHL. With the news that Morgan Rielly will be quarterbacking the top power play unit this season, he is in a very, very good spot to outperform his ADP across the board. Now, his last season, Morgan Rielly as a power play one defenseman, which was 23-24, he had 72 games played, 58 points, 20 points in the power play, and almost triple 100 peripherals, meaning he's in a very, very good spot this season. He's averaged around 21 minutes time on ice last season. I think this year we could see him get a plus 2-minute boost with the added power play time on a per game basis, up to 23 minutes per night, which means he's in a great spot to succeed. Now, we've seen defensemen fly in drafts, and Morgan Rielly seems to be a guy that kind of sliding a little bit under the radar right now. And for the reason that he just wasn't that good last season. But you have to remember, he wasn't the guy on the top power play unit for most of last season. They kind of went with a 5-man forward unit. OEL was there as well. But I think this year they're looking to roll out a full-time Morgan Rielly quarterback on the top power play unit, and he's looking to regain that offensive status that he had just a few years ago. Now, for me, like I said, he's falling a lot in drafts. I would not take him as my defenseman 1, but he seems to be in a really good spot to be a solid defenseman number 3 or defenseman number 4. That could pay off big value and honestly potentially end as your defenseman 2 or defenseman 1, depending on how you draft them. If you watched my FPPL draft, he's probably better than my entire defense core, but still, I love the upside for Morgan Rielly this season. Now, going to his floor, he's put up at least 40 points in each of the last 4 seasons, meaning that even if he doesn't get that 65 point ceiling year that you're looking for out of Rielly, at least you know the floor is still there with those 40 plus points. Now, our projections for Rielly this season: 73 games played, 50 points, 18 of those points in the power play, 150 shots, 61 hits, and 112 blocks. This team will need Morgan Rielly to get going and get back to that offensive defenseman that he used to be for them to be in a very good position this season, and I love the upside for Morgan Rielly. There was a lot of talk and a lot of comments about Logan Mailloux being the power play 1 quarterback for the St. Louis Blues this season, but we haven't seen that at all. It's been Cam Fowler that's been manning the top power play unit, and at ADP 138 seems to be extremely good value, and to me, like one of the last power play 1 defensemen actually going off the board here. Now, the biggest thing for Fowler last season was what happened after the trade. Now, he was moved to St. Louis, 51 games he played with them last season. He put up 36 points, 8 of those points in the power play, added 71 shots and 58 blocks, then went into playoffs, and for that first 7 games was one of the most dominant players, scoring 8 points, 5 of those points in the power play in the 7 games for St. Louis. Unfortunately, they did lose in Game 7 overtime against the Winnipeg Jets with that crazy Cole Perfetti game-tying goal. But still, with Cam Fowler here, he basically changed his team's power play, along with getting Robert Thomas back was huge for them as well. But they went from a bottom 5 power play over the first 30 games of the season to a top 10 power play over the last 51 games since Cam Fowler joined. And I did the math and I looked it up. So from the start of the season to December 31st, they had 5.83 power play goals for per 60. From January 1 to the end of the season, 9.87 power play goals for per 60. So if this power play could continue and gain the momentum that they had near the end of the season, since Cam Fowler joined and was quarterbacking that top unit, he could be in a very good position to set career highs across the board. So I said this already earlier, but there's some competition with Broberg, Mailloux, but we've seen Fowler as power play 1 the entire training camp, and I just saw the lines today, and it looks like it's going to be Justin Falk on power play 2, and we know how badly that experiment failed last season, so I don't even think Broberg or Mailloux is the next man up. It looks like it might be Justin Falk, so I think his position is secure from Fowler this season, and we may see a career year from him. This season, we're projected him 77 games played, 10 goals, 44 assists, 18 of those points in the power play, 132 shots, 22 hits, and 10 blocks. Not the strongest peripheral getting defenseman, but still the point upside this season is massive for Fowler, and there's a lot to love from him going into 25-26. The last player for this list, Sam Montembeault of the Montreal Canadiens. I'm starting to like him more and more as preseason's continuing, because I really like this Montreal Canadiens roster in general. Like, they look very, very strong this season. And you have to remember, they added Noah Dobson, who just 2 years ago was a 70-point, massive, or very, very strong defensive defenseman for the New York Islanders. That's only going to help this team's blue line. They have Michael Matheson now as their 3rd defenseman, adding Caden Gooley. Their top 4 D-core is really, really good. And I think this is only going to help Sam Montembeault. Now, I don't think he's the most elite on-ice goalie, but he was the 3rd starter for Team Canada, so maybe he's a lot better than I think. But he's still a starting goalie that's going about round 11 plus right now. He's falling really late in the drafts. Now you have to remember, like, goalies are reflective of how good of a team they have in front of them. And Montreal last season squeaked into playoffs with a really, really young core. Now we're adding Noah Dobson. Now we're adding the growth of their youth. I think they have the opportunity to be a top 10 to 12 team this season. And if Montembeault is going to be that guy, that workhorse goaltender, he's only going to reap the benefits. Now, looking back at 24-25, he was that workhorse goalie with 62 starts, over 1,500 saves, the second most starts in the NHL, the sixth most saves last season. If he can just slightly improve that goals against and save percentage number, if maybe we see a 280 goals against and a 910 save percentage, he can be a league winner this season. Now, we have Montembeault projected 62 games played, 31 wins, 179 goals against, a 292 goals against average, a 903 save percentage, and almost 1,700 wins. It's going to be a really, really good season for Sam Montembeault this season, which I'm very excited for. And at ADP 121, he seems like a no-brainer to draft.